Where does Godzilla poop? At Tokyo Game Show 2013. I'm stood outside the Singapore Indie Studios with Brian and Ian from Witching Hour, right?
That's right. Awesome.
Okay, cool. And you are kind of here in promotion of Ravenmark Mercenaries.
Yep,
So tell us a little bit about the game.
Right, so Ravenmark Mercenaries is actually more of a sequel to our first game, Scourge of a Stallion.
Yep.
It's Scourge of a Stallion is like a 30-hour long campaign. You know, we love Fire Emblem, Final Fantasy Tactics, and we wanted to put that on the iOS.
Yep.
And that's something we did back in 2011.
Yep.
So right now we came out with Mercenaries, which is a multiplayer game. So you actually play against other players, and the whole system was built from the ground up specifically for that. So you have that, that effort where you're controlling the game, and we kind of avoid the usual tropes of attrition. You know, where you have 10 units, you're gonna hit one of mine, and I have 10 units, gonna hit one of yours.
Right.
Totally avoid it in our system because it's a WeGo system. You know, everything happens at the same time, so you can't exactly just pretty much hit everybody. Everybody just hitting one thing.
Players and enemies moving in the same phase. I mean, that's what we mean by WeGo. And everything's sort of decided by a D&D style initiative system. So you have to plan your moves according to okay, my guy's gonna go second, third, and fifth. The enemy's gonna be fourth, seventh. So paying attention to who moves first decides whether you live or die.
Right. So it's almost like it's turn-based, but there's kind of real-time elements to it.
Sort of.
Correct.
Yeah,
it's the faster units will go first. So likewise, if you have slower units, you can kind of predict where the faster ones are going. You can chase them down. You can do interesting things like that.
Cool.
But more than anything else, Ravenmark is a world. It's an original world that we built. You see, so as much as the strategy is very important, a lot of the units have flavor. We have over 50 unique units, each with their own abilities and their own styles of play. Yeah.
And combined with that, their own histories. I mean, we try to give each of them their own nationality, their own life and place in the world. So I mean, a lot of times we describe Ravenmark as sort of like Game of Thrones meets Battlefield Chess or Advance Wars, what have you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I had to go on like the first Ravenmark this week, and like it's kind of cool. Like, I mean, a lot of kind of, I guess, Asian development in particular, there's like a lot of focus on like free to play and social, so it's like really refreshing to play something that's kind of in depth and like,
it's
single player.
Real meat to it,
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, to people who perhaps like not so familiar with like the Singapore like game scene, like, what is development like in Singapore?
Well, simply put, a majority of companies very much prefer the casual free-to-play model because they see it as the easiest way to make a dime.
Right.
On the other hand, we come from a very mid-core to hardcore kind of background. That's the kind of games we play, the kind of games we love, and we know that people like us are underserved. So that's kind of why we decided to do something a bit different. In fact, also like the sense of style, the sense of design is very different because, for example, Brian and I play a lot of Western style games. I live and breathe the Winter Nights. I'm a Baldur's Gate guy, and Brian plays a lot of Final Fantasy, a lot.
Once upon a time.
Yeah, once upon a time.
Let's be clear.
Yeah. So we take all those sensibilities and put it into the games, you see. So we enjoy something a little bit different from most other Singaporean companies. So in that way, it's we've been walking a different path, and it's been very, very fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
If you had to sort of distill people like to say that Singapore is a great confluence of East meets West, and we still follow that, but we're really trying to we do our research and we give it as much depth as we can to that makes the most sense for the medium.
Yeah. The truth of the matter is that Singapore is quite a conservative country. So the idea of doing anything creative, right, you're looked very strangely upon to begin with. Now let's talk about the general arts. Now you talk about games, which is even a newer industry, right? People go like, really? Can you make money?
Yeah.
Are you sleeping, on the street?
Why aren't you making Angry Birds?
That's
the number one question.
Right.
So you read in the newspapers like, this company made this X million dollars, but you never hear anything about, was it well designed?
Yeah.
Was it well thought out? Who was it for? Can it surpass that point where we can call it a bit of art? And that's kind of like what we want to do. We want to bring that kind of depth, that kind of vibrancy to the industry, and we are seeing that change now, but it's slow. And a bit of coverage, a bit of help from around the world to convince Singaporeans. I put it to this way:
Singaporeans, but the world at large.
Yeah, that we can do it.
We have a scene in Singapore. We're a little bit like men apart from the big development scene in America or even in Japan here. We're we are in touch with some of them, but not like we don't have a big a formidable enough presence.
I can show you how broken things are in Singapore. My friend wanted to open a t-shirt shop.
Oh, yeah,
He wanted to do surfwear. Right. So what he did is that he went to Australia, opened a shop there, a really small shop to justify that it's an Australian brand, and then brought it back to Singapore. You see, so that mentality has to change. You know, that mindset of how you want to approach creative endeavors has to change. And we hope that we are making that first step, and hopefully other people will follow along as well.
How are you finding, like, I guess now there's kind of a very sort of select premium tier of stuff on the App Store. So I mean, like, you're very focused on turn-based strategy, and XCOM came out at like $20 and like did quite well for 2K, and then like you have that kind of free-to-play market, and you're kind of in that mid-tier where, I mean, you're a very in-depth game, but like you're whatever 500 yen or whatever it is, a fairly low-priced thing. So you're in that middle tier. Like, how does that middle ground work for you?
Well, it's we can take it from the first game. When we first launched Scourge, right? We launched it at $2.99, and people were going like, "What the hell is this thing?" You know, it's an odd thing to see a full game for $2.99. We upped it to $5 and people are going, it sounds a bit expensive. But we went to $10, people went, it's so much value. So that perception matters, you know. So that's why we kind of decided to split it between, we're doing fully premium games and free to play, but anything in between, it's not really worth it because it confuses people.
Right. Wow. That's fascinating stuff. So Ravenmark Mercenaries is on the App Store now?
Yes, it is.
Cool.
Scourge is also on the App Store now. If you want to find out why everyone wants to kill each other in Mercenaries, that's a good place to go as well.
Awesome, that's great. Okay.
Thank you so much, man.
All right, best of luck, man. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Pleasure.